Doom, the primogenitor of the first-person shooter. Not the first, mind you, but it was the definitive. In 1993, id Software released a shareware version of the first of Doom's 3 episodes to the public, and its reception was phenomenal. Earlier attempts at the FPS genre had been made by id, Wolfenstein and its sequel Spear of Destiny, but they were incredibly simple and rudimentary attempts at the first-person shooter. It would take John Carmack to design an entirely new engine for the first-person shooter that would include new features such as dynamic lighting, multiple levels and staircases within a map, all lending to a more three-dimensional feel. This engine later became known as id Tech 1. So with this mighty new engine, the dynamic team at id began working on their new game, Doom. Fueled by pizza, energy drinks and 90s thrash metal, Doom was a huge and glorious product of its time, full of inspiration from action movies like The Terminator and Aliens, metal music such as that of Pantera, Metallica or Alice in Chains, and even with some inspiration from the id team's own D&D campaigns. It was set in a grim space base and full of satanic and gruesome imagery. Whilst it was the pinnacle of controversy at the time, it was also adored by its large fan following. The game had an uncaring attitude towards story, with early design ideas thrown out to make way for a simpler, more badass tone that didn't take itself too seriously. Doom was a never-ending flow of gameplay. New room, monsters, a switch. New room, tougher monsters, some items, a switch, and occasionally one of the game's 2 boss enemies. The player gets a feeling of being an angry badass in space ripping and tearing his way through Hellspawn, and it's fun. Like many earlier games, rather than relying on an arbitrary story to justify the player's actions, Doom just has the player kill demons because it's fun, not because of any pretentious story arcs. You dash through the halls of the Phobos base because you enjoy beating the snot out of monsters, not because a character told you to. In addition, Doom had nothing to interrupt its constant action. Sure, there was occasional backtracking, but doors opened instantly, items were picked up instantly, and level transitions went past in the blink of an eye. This kept up the constant stream of combat and, in my opinion, made the experience more enjoyable. Now that's not to say narrative gaming experiences are bad. Plenty of my favourite titles are heavily narrative driven, like Ocarina of Time and pretty much any Western or Japanese RPG. But to me, Doom is a very different thing. Its themes are super cheesy and there doesn't need to be an epic tale. It works far better as an uncaring romp to hell and back. And despite it being way before my time, I love it. Fast forward only a year to 1994, and id has already released Doom 2. Why such a short development time? Well, Doom 2 made little to no technical additions over the first game. Maps were made bigger, because new hardware could handle them, and some optimization was brought, but that's it. In terms of gameplay, a new weapon, the iconic and beloved Super Shotgun, was added to the game. A twin-sized dosage of the shotgun's already lethal firepower, and new enemies were added such as the Archvile, Revenant and Mancubus. The gameplay felt like an enhanced version of Doom 1. It had the same stylings and the same awesome feel to it, but it was more ironed out and the menagerie of new demons made for more varied encounters. However, in the modern day, looking back, the two games are highly indistinguishable, and Doom 2 is less notable as a result. And let's do the time warp again, because it's 2004. 10 years after the release of the last main series Doom game, many start to see Doom as a historical IP, never to come back into the light of mainstream modern gaming. However, the year of 2004 sees the release of Doom 3, a prequel of all things. Since Doom 2, Quake has mostly taken its spotlight as a highly popular arena shooter developed in full modern 3D graphics. Doom, then, is now able to take advantage of the then cutting-edge graphics of the id Tech 4 engine. Doom 3 takes up a very different feel and attitude to the preceding games. It does exactly what wouldn't work for Doom. It fits in to an overarching narrative. This is bad for the reasons I mentioned before. The themes and mechanics of Doom are nonchalant within themselves, and as such they suit a nonchalant narrative. Attempting Doom-style gameplay with a super serious narrative simply doesn't work. It makes you as a writer seem pretentious and annoying, and the player longs for the euphoric combat of Doom rather than tolerating long sequences of exposition. Doom 3 tried to dilute this problem by changing the gameplay style. Rather than the run-and-gun action of the previous games, Doom 3 is more like a horror title bearing a lot of resemblance to games like Dead Space, and the game takes itself so seriously around these as an epic tale of a hero that it forgets what Doom is all about. Doom was about running and gunning and heavy metal and cheesy 90s badass culture, and Doom 3 does not reflect that for me. Though, I suppose Doom 3 could succeed on its own merits, as an action horror game. I don't know. But what made Doom 3 definitely does succeed is the art style. Just like the previous games, which were heavy with H.R. Geiger-inspired art and grimy rundown environments, Doom 3 replicates this perfectly. This makes for a pretty game to look at, but a huge disappointment for those awaiting the badass new breath of life into Doom. So disappointing even that I played it on console and don't even want to spend money to buy the damn thing again on PC to record it, so I'm just using the trailer footage. Hamicky motherfucker. People were all either enjoying or hating Doom 3, when again after a few years no new news had been released about a new Doom title in the works. However, in 2007 a possible Doom 4 was hinted at, and in 2008 it was fully revealed, to the horror of the series' long-term fans. Now don't get me wrong, just like Doom 3 this game could have easily stood up on its own merits. In fact it looks very similar to Half-Life 2, which is a game I enjoy highly. It was going to be set on an apocalyptic Earth after demon invasion, like Doom 2, but in terms of setting that's about all we know. The game was often referred to as Call of Doom sarcastically by fans, in reference to the drab tones and design of the game, echoing Call of Duty and other bland FPS games that were so popular at the time, and still continue to be. Some elements of the prototype Doom 4 we can see actually made it into the final version of 2016's Doom, such as the glory kill system, and the models for the two shotguns, the combat shotgun and the super shotgun, but most of the rest of the game seems to have been scrapped other than a few enemy models. The pistol in Doom 4 was, rather than a cool little laser gun, a tactical looking M9 handgun, and we can also see a generic tactical looking assault rifle in demo footage, which doesn't really suit the current art style of Doom that I'm assuming was eventually replaced with the heavy assault rifle. Things were starting to get desperate, and people were really hoping for a classic Doom title, but it didn't look like it was going to deliver. And in 2010, it was out of this desperation that the marvellous Brutal Doom was born. A mod for the original Doom and Doom 2 that attempted to enhance and modernise the gameplay, to revitalise the game and make use of modern technology to make it that little bit more awesome. Brutal Doom adds better graphics and textures, a reloading system, iron sights, which I don't really like, but they're there, new nice looking gun sprites, lots of delicious particle effects, higher detailed maps, a glory kill system like we saw for Doom 4, higher difficulty settings, and a ton of blood. Adjustable in the settings, of course. And recently, the mod even received its own standalone maps, called the Hell on Earth Starter Map, that are very detailed and provide a great experience for anyone looking for that classic Doom feel, with updated gameplay and nicer graphics. The mod is now in version 20, with version 21 to be released by the end of the year, so the mod is having continued development and support, and it has full support for user-generated custom maps, and even has code to allow the use of mounts and vehicles, as well as mounted guns. Oh, and did I mention you can give the demons the finger? And now for the main event. Doom 2016. Published by Bethesda, Doom 2016 sees new blood in the id team create something truly spectacular, to harken back to the original from 23 years ago. Doom 2016 was rather well received upon its launch. Visceral, industrial metal, demons that were remade with the same attacks and designs as the originals. Satisfying weapons and classic style gunplay that doesn't give way to a COD style hide behind this desk to hear your scars type. It feels very much like a modern reskin of old Doom in a lot of ways. The graphics are impressive to boot. The game has an enjoyable campaign with well-scaled encounters and really nice gratifying echoes of the original maps all around. The game even attempts some 3D platforming, which surprisingly it pulls off pretty perfectly and feels rather good, which has never been something I said before about 3D platforming. As many others have pointed out, Doom 2016 definitely gives the middle finger to cinematic storytelling, through Doom Guy, now referred to as the Doom Slayer, and his motions and animations, his fragrant and angry dismissal of Samuel Hayden and other characters, and expositionary material. It's beautiful to see a game that just flings you straight into the action like Doom 2016 does. The game isn't without its flaws though. Unlike the original, combat and action are quite frequently interrupted for needlessly lengthy animations for opening a door, picking up a new weapon, or obtaining another kind of gameplay item like a keycard. Doom Guy is so surprised, but you just want to keep on killing people with this cool new weapon you've found. Also, the industrial and run-down grimy art style seems to have been replaced with a more modern style, echoing Halo and Dead Space. This is kind of disappointing because I think the Geiger inspirations were rather important to the original and rather charming. In addition, the game still doesn't seem to be able to sacrifice its precious lore, and had to add in a codex menu full of backstory. Although this is entirely optional, and unlike Doom 3, the game really doesn't take itself seriously, with many achievements and references hidden that make jokes at the game's expense. It's a wonderful breath of fresh air from the normal slog of modern gaming. Doom 2016 also comes with the brilliant Snap Map feature, an easy-to-use map editing program that can be even used on consoles and with a controller. It's in-depth enough to allow some wild stuff, such as the guy who made a MOBA or the Harvest Moon map that I'm sure most of you have seen, but it's simple enough that it's easy to understand and even use effectively on a console. Playing here is some footage of me messing around with one of the pre-built maps, just to get an idea of the content. And I feel like more Snap Map related content is likely to be hit on my channel at some point soon, because I find the vibe interesting of custom maps in general, and the way Snap Map works and its sort of effectiveness level makes it a borderline modding tool rather than just a mapping tool. Enemy AI can be changed, interactions can be changed, and storylines can even be added. And you can create maps for any of the multiplayer modes, cooperative, or just a simple single-player experience. I've played a lot of these maps and I really enjoy most of them, and I think a lot of you will too. It's a very nice piece of software that really fits with the new theme of Doom. The 2016's Doom, like the original, includes a multiplayer PvP mode. However, this new game is very different to the original in this regard. The multiplayer echoes that of Halo or Call of Duty, with a two-weapon system and special perks and power-ups, rather than the original, which is a classic arena shooter that everyone has grown to know and love. Also, this new multiplayer has a football mode for some reason. A lot of games seem to be doing this these days. It's kinda lame and a bit tired. In my opinion, it really did lose its novelty some time ago. But other than that, the multiplayer is overall unremarkable and, unfortunately, a little bit disappointing. They are rage, brutal, without mercy. But you'll be worse. Rip and tear until it is done. it's me again, back to just say I really do hope you enjoyed this video as my first foray into this kind of video format. If you could like and subscribe if you like this video to see more, I'd be really happy, and if you have any comments or criticism, please comment down below. I appreciate anything that can help me improve my own content. Thanks for watching guys, and remember, fight like hell.